Howdy, and welcome to episode 128 of In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. In this episode, Aaron pimps rabbits and does lines of pine dust, while Jason punches us in our money guts. We're your hosts, Aaron.
And Jason.
And you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. All right, we have a very interesting show for you guys today. I think y'all are really going to dig it, and hopefully we don't wind people up too much, but I have a feeling we might. Before we get into that, let's get through the announcements today. First one, of course, apparently I suck at doing countdowns because this is it's actually one episode left after today, and if we're closing out on April 27th. And of course, we will be returning August 3rd for Season 5 of In the Rabbit Hole. And some exciting stuff coming for Season 5. But first, another special announcement, which is the Rabbit Hole needs your help. And as the saying goes, we're having a bit of a high-class problem, you might say. So recently, the website was running kind of slow, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. And I already had some other plans that relate to this, but I was like, what is going on? And I don't really keep up with the subscriber numbers very much.
He's clueless. God.
I look at it every once in a while, but I don't really look at it very carefully or pay close attention to it because I'm more like, hey, let's just do a show. Let's not worry too much about everything else. Yeah, we've been having a traffic spike this season, so we are up to 25, or actually it's a little over 25,000 downloads of the show a month now. Which is
rock on, sir.
Like I said, it's a high class problem, but we are running into some issues with the rabbit hole being a little expensive to maintain. The other issue is because of the traffic spike, we've had to shut down. We had finally gotten the feed number resolved where we could have the entire show, at least the last 100 episodes, on iTunes. So we had to cut that back to 24. We were also getting some complaints from the host, and we're risking being shut down completely, which was actually my fault. I didn't, whoever reads the terms and conditions, and I didn't. And so I got a very polite, hey, I won't flag your account, but you guys can't be doing this. So what we have done, though, is I've gone through and put an actual shopping cart onto the rabbit hole, and people have been asking for this for a long time, and actually packed up the seasons into Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and then when we finish up Season 4 will be up there, and you guys can check it out and purchase a season or purchase them all, totally up to you, and help us keep the lights on around here. And that also leads into, for Season 5, we had some bigger ideas, and we really wanted to put some effort into it. And one of my personal goals for Season 5 was I wanted to actually start moving into a position in life where I was actually spending about 15 to 20 hours a week on the rabbit hole and really get back into really producing the shows again and really working through show notes and really coming up with some kick-ass stuff and getting the rabbit hole back to potentially a year-round show without breaks, or at least have enough where we could get shows together to have in the hopper and be able to take our summer break without leaving you guys with nothing. So
silence.
Yeah, because I know how that is, and we miss being around, but at the same time, we do definitely need the break. So we are going to be doing some things. I know the mailing list for a long time has the Roving Horde mailing list has been taking a survey for the last year, and we were going to do a bunch of big videos and start really trying to do supplement videos like how-to videos and a lot of other stuff. And we started getting a lot of responses kind of right away when we introduced the survey. And it was, hey, why don't you guys put together some kind of class or something like that? I don't know if we're really ready for that or whatever, but I guess the other thing is like we've had a lot of people, and if you guys are really interested in that, definitely, email in and let us know so that we can gauge interest, or even better, just put it in the comments for today's show and let us know, hey, one of the things we got back from someone, sorry, my voice is kind of failing today. One of the things we got back was, hey, what if you guys actually put together like a 7-week thing where it was an in-depth look at the basics of, what does it really mean to prioritize, and what does it really take to get prepared and be organized about it and all those things. So it is something we're open to do, but I guess it for us to do that, it would be a pretty big undertaking. And there would be definitely some costs involved. So it's not the kind of thing we could just throw together. Let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. We'll start having a longer conversation about, our ability to get that together and everything as a supplement and doing something cool. And of course, we've had a lot of people asking us for a long time to do some kind of membership thing, and we may look into it. But the whole thing with the membership was always, I really wanted to make it, and I know the three of us always really wanted to make it something that if we did a membership, we didn't just throw it up and be like, donate to the show or something.
Right.
Whereas you guys really got something extra for being members, whether that's, having access to the transcripts of the show in addition to some other exciting things. So if you guys have some ideas of things you would actually love to spend money on, we'd love to make it for you if there's enough interest in it, and be sure to put it in the comments section. We'll talk about what we can do, because we're kind of getting to the point where the rabbit hole suddenly became a lot more expensive to run, and our ability to keep the lights on is getting kind of tenuous. So anyway,
we're gonna have to start selling rabbits or something.
I can't sell the bunnies. I have hard enough time, culling them, much less selling them.
Oh, I know.
It's like weird rabbit sex slave at that point, which is just extra weird now that I said that out loud. It was funnier in my head. Now it's just creepy. But anyway, not really the topic of today's show.
No. Bunny pimp.
Okay, so quick segue away from that. It's better than a goat pimp, because
that's true.
Because a goat pimp's a little too close to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down that road too far, because that just starts getting extra
or that
creepy.
We could start selling bunny porn. I went there.
There you go. There you go. That is what the membership section gets. I figured it out now. It's just videos of bunnies humping. Making little bunnies.
Hey, man.
That's freaking weird, man. That is freaking weird. I had somebody you know what? I'm not even going to relay that comment somebody made one day about the videos of rabbits. Anyway, so there's that. And yes, again, so that I make the correction, because apparently I suck at countdowns, including this episode, there are 2 episodes left of season 4 of In the Rabbit Hole. And of course, we are not going away. We are going on our summer break. We will return for season 5. August 3rd. I think it's the 3rd. I'm pretty sure it's the 3rd. And anyway, with that wrapped up, let's get into the doom and gloom that is Jason today. You suck. It was all Mr. Happy Optimism minus all the pollen that is. And I do want to take a quick second. For those listening, my voice is going out, so I'm not really sure how long the show is going to be today. It's Houston, so in my house we have both pine trees and pecan trees, and there is nothing at my house and a lot of Houston right now that is not covered in a millimeter of yellow dust. I don't usually have allergies, and this may not actually be an allergy, but I actually am having a problem with a sore throat and burning eyes. So.
You see, listeners, I'm going to touch back with Meriwether's like foraging stuff. Pine pollen is actually a mimicker of testosterone. And what Aaron's refusing to tell you is he's been, railing up lines of this stuff, trying to get, bulking up and get a little bit bigger and better shape. So he's been railing up a bunch of lines of pine tree pollen, trying to get buff and, get all testosterone out.
That is a weird visual, but you caught me. And
I can see the yellow dust in your nose right now, man. You got to cut it out.
It's great shit.
Got to cut it out.
I love
man.
it. Yeah. Good shit. It's when I try to snort a pecan that we really have to. Although it's not actually pecan season, it's just pecan dust.
Yeah,
I'm doing pecan. You've heard of pixie dust. This is pecan dust. Pine dust.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what are we dealing with today, Jason? We've got some massive issues going on in the world. We've got some shenanigans.
As preppers, our basic premise is get in front of the disaster so that we can avoid it, right?
Or at least brace for impact.
Exactly. Better that we see a punch coming versus getting just blindsided.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to get really worried about what all is going on in the world. And all of us kind of look at it that way, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, this is going on over there in Greece. What does that have to do with me? It's the combination of different things going on and how the world's kind of switching and changing that is really starting to alarm me. The number one thing, and I'm sure it's all over the U.S. media, but it's the Greece thing. Greece is literally fixing to basically give the finger to Germany and default, and more than likely is going to exit the EU.
So now, what does that actually do to the, I mean, I kind of have a concept, obviously. But,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
what does that really do?
Western
What does that
society
mean for us?
is so intertwined now, and basically, it's just so debt ridden. We just keep passing off debt paper around. Now, to give a little bit of background, I'm in the real estate business, so I mean, and not just some realtor. I was a mortgage banker, so I understand where the whole mortgage-backed securities thing came up with, and what happened, and what caused the 2008 crash. And that was basically debt. It was debt that went bad that no one could repay. It just went from worth $100 down to zero.
Because now, to back up, you actually did see
Yes, firsthand.
the 2008 when you started seeing that.
06.
06, yeah.
I started talking to you guys about it, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's because I was an appraiser.
Yeah.
And as an appraiser, I'm on the streets. I'm looking at things. Plus I had a mortgage company, so I saw where the lenders were coming from, and everyone was high on making all this money. So because they were making all this money, they weren't taking logical precautions in order to hedge against that.
Mhm.
They were just going at it like
Just feeding at the trough.
yeah, exactly. And that's what really caused it. Was no one pulled back when everything started falling apart, and it was 2008 when everything just exploded. That's when everyone thinks about the crash, but I saw it coming. I mean, I saw the signs. I was in the trenches. Of course, you see the stuff in the trenches going on. It's not going to hit reality in normal national level for about 2 years. It just takes that long for that process to trickle through.
I remember going through that, and I do remember you telling us about it personally, just in private when we used to have tea night, when our group of friends would get together and hang out and BS. For a couple of us, we're in a similar situation until about 2007. We started really listening to you, but in like 2006, it was like, dude, what are you talking about? Everybody was so high on the hog that we're like, God. Jason has lost his damn mind. But you hadn't. You were actually the smartest one of the bunch in that situation, and we finally started listening to you in 2007. And I remember even in our own business, I kept, saying, in my family's business, I kept saying, pull back on inventory, or we are going to get him. And everybody thought I was crazy. You were the genius of the bunch.
Yeah, I wish I could claim that, but call me more observant. Yeah, I was in the trenches, so I was seeing it firsthand.
Yeah.
What that experience has made me is more aware of what's going on around us and being more conscious of the global economy and what's going on. That's one of my big things I'm prepping for is, the fall of the dollar, or, our economic collapse of the United States. Well, what's scaring me is I know how much debt that we have out in Europe, how much money they owe us. Basically, the world turns to us as like the central bank of the entire world.
Yeah.
Everyone's always constantly borrowing money from us, even though that we're $18 trillion in debt.
The
it's
financials, such a weird, incestuous mess of,
oh my God,
we borrow from China to then turn around and loan to the EU and to the...
Yes.
I mean, I get the strategy of what they're trying to do. It's an old strategy that a lot of people think is new, because like a lot of people will talk about now about no one can go to war together because we're all too intertwined. What's interesting is there have been notable authors whose names I can't think of right this second, but there have been notable thinkers and authors who both before World War I and World War II said, the world's too intertwined. We can't go into war. I'm not going into a conversation necessarily today about World War III. That's not the point of that. But,
right.
But people always talking about, oh, well, too big to fail, or too, and it's like, no, let it fail, or no, we can't go into a conflict because we're all too intertwined, and that's no, we just all go crashing down unless some other things are going on, which we'll come to. You will enlighten us about. In
yes, actually, I'm rolling into that. I'm seeing that going on. And what kind of saved us back in 2008 and kind of got us through this whole giant mess was the fact that everyone else was just so messed up, so much more than us. We were the only safe place to go stick money. What's happened is the dollar skyrocketed, man. The value of it has just really gone through the roof in comparison to the past.
I was watching, I don't remember which show it is, but it's one of the Fox business shows, and they were talking about like investing, and I was laughing. And not necessarily a happy laugh, but I was also just laughing at the irony of that these investors that were coming on the show and talking about stocks were complaining that the value of the dollar was too high. And I was just like, oh, that's never a good sign.
It sounds almost counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you would think, all right, so my dollar's worth so much more, so I can buy more stuff. All the prices of things should be really falling, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's occurring is that's not happening. We've got the dollar going up, but yet the only thing that's really dropping is like oil. The oil drop And I remember reading about this, and I don't know why all of a sudden the U.S. media completely ignored it. But OPEC had a meeting about a year ago and complaining about them losing so much money to all the Americans and Canadians because we were fracking. And all of a sudden, price of oil was so high, we had all this extra money to invest into fracking and start pulling all of these oil reserves out. If the listeners don't know, basically Texas and I think it's South Dakota or North Dakota have the largest fracking reserves in the world. Texas, we're good for at least the next couple of centuries, just on fracking alone. Well, the OPEC basically was looking at was the fact that all of a sudden the U.S. is becoming the major number one oil producer. Well, they can't have that because then that's taking away their ability to leverage against us and to get things from us. So what did they do? What any competitor in a business situation would do, they cut their prices. They cut their prices to the point where it basically bankrupted fracking. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Texas is basically in a recession right now. We just lost 43,000 jobs.
Which is crazy for Texas. We've done we've been so insulated from the rest of it because we have such great open, capitalism friendly policies around these parts.
But they got us in the Achilles heel, our oil.
Yeah, which is still you would have thought we would have really learned our lesson after the 80s. We have to some degree. Texas is different. I mean, Austin is huge in technology and stuff now, but still,
we have diversified so greatly, but we're still the energy capital of the world.
Yeah,
that's what Houston is all about. And because of that, the whole downturn in oil, it has really, really hurt us. Just because the auxiliary businesses that we have here. All the pipeline, equipment, all of those supportive industries for the fracking energy sector is almost all of it's located either here or like Midland. Midland's really hurting right now. I've got a brother-in-law that actually works for Weatherford, and he's giving me reports back, from the trenches, what's going on. All these orders are stopping. Another good friend of mine, is in the valve business, and all of a sudden his business is starting to retract. I was actually fixing to invest into a couple of new starts. That's building a couple of new homes over here. And the bank that the builder and the other partners were going to actually pulled back. They refused to actually fund the loan because they were concerned about the economic, all the layoffs and everything else here. They were actually being responsible lenders and not allowing for oversupply of real estate. So they cut back and they were like, no, we're not going to fund this new build because there's too much online right now. And because of all the layoffs, if you actually project that out, the demand's not going to be as high when this project is actually built. And the probability of that project going bankrupt or you not being able to sell it is getting higher. They're beginning to pull back from all the new construction loans. So it's making it harder for us to even build a new house.
Wow. Yeah. And I know another friend of ours was talking about that, and he does like big development projects, like entire neighborhoods and stuff, that kind of stuff, plus big office parks and stuff like that. And he was talking about it a little bit but he was talking about it a little bit from a perspective of there's some really big heavy hitters coming into the market too that are also building. And so it's become a bit of a feeding frenzy, which like before the show, we were looking, I just got my property tax bill, and that's going to create another issue, at least for us locally, is property taxes, which there's no real cap on for businesses. Thankfully there is on homes, but people that own lots of rental properties or that own a large commercial property, like my parents own a very large commercial property. And I know when I opened my tax bill today, it was up $50,000 over last year.
Yeah.
In 1 year. And that's just because there was such a feeding frenzy in Houston.
Yeah.
And those taxes, and I know that's a lot of concerns for business owners I know that own their own land, like my parents, who are like, holy crap, our property taxes are out of freaking control.
Well, that stems back the whole fracking spike. Because when fracking started going through the roof and oil went through the roof, everyone was moving in hordes into Houston and there was no supply. We were completely run out of houses here, restabilizing back from the crash. And all of a sudden we had this massive economic boom here in Houston. And that just drove all the prices through the roof. We couldn't build houses fast enough. Well, all of a sudden, when OPEC decides to do this and all of a sudden the oil crashes, all of a sudden all those jobs and all those projects, a lot of those are getting put on hold. Again, there was 43,000 layoffs here in Texas.
Yeah.
All this expansion is all of a sudden completely halted. man, that's like turning off the faucet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was running full blast, full blast, full blast.
Yeah, that was almost like a fire hydrant going on here.
Oh, yeah. And then it just...
Because traffic is... I mean, it's nice because I mostly work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I do help out in the family business too. But the family business is only a few blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it takes me about as long to pull out of my driveway as it does to get to the family business. But then, a couple of times a week, I actually do leave the neighborhood. And so for me, it's like in a week span, I'll just be like, holy crap, where are all these people coming from? And it's all these like Californian, just out of state plates. And you Californians don't know how to drive. Not that Houstonians really did, but you people really don't know how to drive. So this is causing a big issue for Texas. And Texas, I mean, that's a issue for the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
Because Texas was such a growth sector for the entire country.
Mm-hmm. This kind of boils back down to what I was originally talking about was you have to be kind of aware of what's going on globally and understand what if something like this actually happens. It takes a little while for it to trickle down, but if you can see that going on a global basis and that that's going to eventually affect you here locally, you can help prepare for that. Mm-hmm. So you can prep for that situation. Say financially, you're in real heavy in a bunch of oil stocks. Well, if you see this going on and you start to see the fall, you can get out.
Yeah.
Sell that off and put it in something that's opposite to that.
And that is so tricky though for most people. Unless you're dealing with like sitting on cash.
Correct.
That is so tricky. And I know you and I talked about, and we all, and this is a teaser for season 5, of course. We actually have we're already starting to map out what season 5 is going to look like. And we are going to discuss warning signs,
mm-hmm.
all kinds of warning signs, warning signs in nature and warning signs just in general that
mm-hmm.
preppers should be aware of. But I didn't mean to derail you completely there. I just wanted to throw in that teaser while the chance was right. And I didn't want you to give away too much. I didn't want you to go too down. We got to save that for next season.
Got it. Oh yeah. That's
going to be an interesting show.
Yeah.
That's going to be
especially after we've had a couple of months to watch this all play out.
Yeah.
And see where it's really going.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all actually part of something bigger, which
mm-hmm.
we'll come to in a minute.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it brings me right back around to what's saved us during the 2008 crash, and that was basically the fact that the U.S. is the reserve currency of the world,
mm-hmm.
and we're the least fucked up of the rest of the world, so everyone was, all right, that's the only safe place to stick any money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens if we get another economic downturn, which I'll explain that here in a second, but this time there's an alternative, an actual viable alternative to stick your money into. And let's face it, we've been kind of sticking the finger to a lot of countries here lately.
Oh yeah.
You're not doing what we want. Oh well, then we'll just throw all these sanctions at you.
Yeah, we've been doing that for a while.
Yeah,
we've been doing that for a while, and now we have both sides of the aisle just completely suck. If anybody doesn't know where we stand on things, we're anarchists anyway. Yeah. So we're like, screw all of this. But there is a point at which you just start doing insane things out of. Yeah, and there's the problem with socialism. You think you're doing the right thing, but it's actually you're just serving your own ego and your own feel good. Let me feed this person, and it's like, well, it's actually not the right course of action. But not that it's not always, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so this leads us to where we've been sticking our finger in other people's eyes
mm-hmm.
pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there's if you look at like Russia.
Mm-hmm.
They're not exactly over what we did to them in the 90s. And it's not like we didn't parade around and dance around in a drunken street. We're like, we were responsible for that. You guys are screwed. Yeah. So
paybacks are bitch.
Paybacks are bitch, as they say.
Yeah.
Kind of like, and this is a total side note, not necessarily relating to the show, but I've had a long-term suspicion that Russia is doing to us in Afghanistan, in the Middle East, what we did to them.
Back in the 80s.
Because I mean, that's really one of the massive ways was we made it their Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm pretty sure they've been very carefully making sure that this drags out as long and as hard as possible. Because it ain't like most of those guys are shooting at us with M16s.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll let you figure the rest of that out, listeners. But anyway, please continue.
All right. So it makes me really concerned what's going on in the EU. The main backer behind that is that we're looked at as the financial bank for the rest of the world. Well, we've got so much debt and money lent out into Europe. Well, what happens if the euro goes down? If the EU goes down and has an economic down crash? Well, we're going down with it. And one of the big triggers that will actually cause that, Greece. Greece is getting to the point where they're like, F you, Germany, and if they pull out and default on all that debt, it's going to crash the EU. Just the financial numbers just do not add up.
And Germany is the anchor of the EU.
Oh, yeah, by
anyway.
far.
So I mean, you're swiping their legs out from underneath.
Yeah,
the rich guy paying for the party to begin with.
Pretty much. And even Germany's even mentioned, or we'll just go back to war. We'll actually go to war and take it all back.
Oh, that's what everybody wants. Germany going to war, because that's turned out so well in two world wars. Yeah, that always works out well.
It would just be ironic if Germany was actually the cause of the first spark that sets off World War III.
You know what they say? 3 strikes.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. Okay. So if that happens, and it's looking like it's coming up with our dollar spike, the oil prices going down, it's really hurting our economy. So we don't have a lot of leverage ability anymore because we're going to be hurting economically. Just because our GDP is going to drop because of all this oil production being completely cut off. You add that with the financial crisis in the EU and that affecting us as far as our debt, our credit rating is going to downgrade again. If you're into stocks and investing into the stock market, you always look at the financials of the company itself and see what like their EBIT and a couple of other different indicators are looking like in order to understand if they're stable, if they're growing, or if they're too unstable and over leveraged. Well, our financials are going to look absolutely and utterly horrible. It looked the same way back in the 2008 crash. But again, what saved us was we were the reserve currency and we were the least messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess who has been silently putting together an entire different new central bank and a different kind of reserve currency?
Dun, dun, dun.
Russia, China. Basically, it's the BRICS bank. It's Russia, China, India, all of those countries over there in like Central Asia. They're getting tired of the West having so much of a heavy influence and being able to dictate and control their economy so much. They're actually building their own centralized bank over there to lessen the influence of basically America. Well, that's been going on for about a couple of years now, which it's really starting to catch up steam. But the big indicator that it's going to be a really, really big problem, we've got European countries signing on.
I was aware of China and Russia's connection, but I hadn't been paying attention to this lately.
Mm-hmm.
I've been dealing with other things. And when you told me that today before the show, while we were working out the show notes, I was like, oh, now I see why you're really nervous about this.
Yes, because it was actually Belgium. Belgium has officially signed on to back them up. And I think they've given them already $536 billion.
Oh, chump change. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, chump change.
Chump change.
What they're basically doing is they're bailing out of the basic euro and trying to get it all over into this other currency just to basically save the value of their currency.
Mm.
That's one. I think there's a couple of more that are actually seriously thinking about it. I know that we've tried to pressure Korea into not vesting into it, and Korea's actually starting to change their mind.
Mm.
They're kind of going against us and be like, well, I think that's actually a safer place for us to go. Japan is starting to do the same thing.
Holy crap!
Japan.
Now these are these are like
friends
real
of the
friends.
U.S.
It's not just like Belgium that's like whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, these
you're
are
right.
actual allies. They're Asian allies.
Mm.
These guys are starting to look at the U.S. and going like, man, this doesn't make any more economic sense. We need to seriously look at this for the betterment of our own country.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they got to watch their own asses.
If that happens, we're basically going to get usurped global reserve currency. And when that happens, the value of the dollar goes south.
Mm-hmm.
All of our debt is going to be retied into this new reserve currency. And we're going to be so upside down, there is no way we're coming back.
So are we talking
anytime
about
soon? So it's going to turn us into like another Russia in the 90s or Argentina in the 2000s, those kind of things.
That was going to be my question is that from your perspective, does that look like Argentina? Are we talking that level of?
If this does occur, if it depends on how severe the EU goes down.
Mm-hmm.
If it's semi-stable and we can kind of regroup and kind of stabilize our economies, we'll be okay, but we'll never be a superpower again.
Yeah, we'll be back to it goes back like Britain when they lost,
Bingo.
and it's like everybody let them sit at the table because they were superpower for so long.
Yeah,
but
that's going to be us.
Yeah, they went through a pretty rough patch.
That's going to be us.
Yeah.
And as a prepper, that's what I'm prepping for. Is we're going to have a major downturn, and history is full of these. Germany, case in point.
Yeah. Weimar Republic. Yeah.
Yes. That's the exact same thing is going to happen here. And what's worse off is Americans are so spoiled and so just entitlement, just mindset.
Because I exist, it's owed to me to.
Yes. And when all of this goes completely to kaput, and the U.S. can't pay back all of its entitlement programs.
Oh, well, crap.
We can just imagine what's going to happen.
Oh, it would be totally insane. I mean, just think about, was it a few years ago when the SNAP or EBT or whatever it was, and they had like a glitch where they couldn't give out money for a day or a weekend, and people were freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, you better. And it's funny. I mean, you hear it, and you still hear it whenever you hear anybody complaining about, and it's always my money. They always refer to it as my money. And it's like, no, jackass, that's a gift from us over here that have a gun pointed at our head, being told we have to give up what we worked for. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's I mean, that was, and as a side note, you and I were talking not too long ago about going on the sociological aspect of it, and then we'll get back to the fall of civilization. But there was a time growing up, for me at least, and you and I are about the same age. I'm 39, you're 40. There was a time where when it came to welfare, there was a real shame to welfare, and so there was a real incentive to get off it. And it was, I knew people that in different times, like in the 80s when Houston was really when Houston had its own little collapse, there were still people that there was so much pride around it, and there was such a stigma around welfare that there were people even then that were like, no, I'll go, you were talking about executives that are like, I'll go clean a toilet for my money. I'm not taking handouts. And now it's just...
That mentality's completely gone.
180.
Yeah.
180. It's just amazing, that sense of entitlement. And that's going to hurt. But I mean, it hurts everyone. Not just the entitled. It hurts everyone. It hurts the people that work really hard, the people that think they're working really hard, and the people who think they're entitled to everyone else's hard work.
Well, one of my big fears is all of a sudden we take all of that away from that crowd. They're automatically going to turn around and be like, well, you rich people owe us. And
and that's where
they're automatically going to turn all that aggression towards people, people that have been trying to prepare or work hard and build all these things up. They're going to want to come in and take all of that from us.
And that plays into the part of what a lot of people have been talking about, but not really saying I will have a result, which is we as a nation have become more divided, more polarized in the last 8 years than I can remember in my lifetime. Not that I've had a long life at this point, but I mean, it's just amazing. And I mean, I see crazy stuff, like people I've known for years, people on Facebook, and I'll see them posting stuff about how great socialism is. I'm like, how do I know you? How is that even? I mean, that's crazy talk. And I see people posting it. I mean, some of these people, I'm like, yeah, you're a freaking retard, so I totally get it. But then there's other people that it's like, you're well educated, and I there's one thing to be liberal, it's another thing to go to the point of saying, so we do have not only that polarization, but we have polarization of perhaps really three: a polarization of I'm owed, or other people are owed; another polarization of people thinking that their brand of conservatism, that they should have their eyeballs and fingers in other people's lives. That's one. And then we have, the libertarians, the minarchists and anarchists on the other gang going,
all you people are nuts.
All you people are nuts. On one side, I want to watch this thing burn and just get the marshmallows out. And on the other side, I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to I don't want to have to deal with this. So, and we're back to, the roving horde armada. But anyway, so where do we go? We've got Belgium, we've got Korea, we've got Japan, we've got people, friends.
Yeah, they're all
friends and allies going, these cats over here, I know they're communists and everything. I mean, they're not really communists, but I mean, you know, let's go party with these cats.
You have to look at it like you're buying stocks. You're analyzing the financials of the company that you're investing in.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you keep investing into this complete, utter train wreck of a company when you know the financials just do not add up? It's not viable anymore. And all of a sudden, this other alternative pops up. So you've got complete train wreck over here, but no other place to put it. Or, hey, this is a bright spot new company. It's coming up. It's really it's backed up by a lot of gold. Oh, forgot to add that. We've also seen a large flux of what you do to analyze the economy is watch the gold and the silver prices. Well, what's been going on is Russia and China have been buying up all kinds of gold.
Yeah, we've been hearing, I mean, some people that are really in tune have been hearing about that for years, but they really, I think some people don't realize just how
it's not reported in the US media.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're building up a reserve of gold to back up the value of their new currency.
Yeah, because if you want to look sexy,
you got gold behind you.
If you want to be the pretty girl at the party going, hey, the real party's over at my house, this one's tapped out.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you know, those guys that left you holding the bag and the ticket that decoupled themselves from anything, not that I think gold or silver are the Messiah, second coming, or the first coming, or whatever you believe in. But at that point, you go, hey, look at us. We actually back our money with something as opposed to meaningless ones and zeros that people in a really non-regulated entity just go print money as they feel it.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, you know, there was also, I know there's been some information about, you know, even speculation that BRIC will start getting involved in like Bitcoins and digital cryptocurrencies, which have a built-in scarcity that you can't screw with unless they go rewrite their own system or whatever. But we'll see. So maybe it's commodities like that, and it's perhaps even a mix to look really good of, hey, look, it's not even just one thing. We've got a breadbasket of stuff that we are basing our money on.
Oil, silver reserves, commodity reserves. It's all there. Their financials and their collateral that they can use to leverage against is so much greater than ours. All we have left is a reputation. Let's face it, worldwide, our reputation is kind of going to shit.
It's done gone to shit. I think we're the only ones that don't seem to realize.
Yeah, we just don't think we stink.
No, we still think we're the pretty girl at the party.
Dude, we're rode hard and put up wet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Lady Liberty, slap that ass. Anyways,
yeah, she's looking like a cracked out hoe right now.
Oh God,
we're the only ones that don't realize she's a cracked out hoe.
Yeah, this is what is beginning to really scare the hell out of me, and what I'm prepping for is because I see all this stuff going on in history. If you watch all the charts, you'll see a giant spike in the value of our dollar, and then all of a sudden you'll see a big level off, and then a drop in commodities. Well, oil's already fallen through the floor. If everything else starts to drop, that's high time to batten down the hatches, man. Because buckle up, because we're going to be in for a long ride down, and we're going to stay down for a while this time. Especially if these other situations come to fruition, and there's a viable alternative that is very apparently becoming available. The world's going to bail, and we're done. It's not happening now. You know, I mean, I don't want to say, oh, the sky is falling, but the perimeters are out there. You know, you have to stay aware of what's going on globally, because some stuff that occurs on the other side of the world actually can affect us here, even on a local basis. You know, like case in point, I mean, OPEC having that little meeting, deciding to cut back on the prices of their oil and underselling in order to bankrupt fracking. Boom, there it is.
And that happened pretty fast.
Oh yeah,
within a year. I remember it wasn't that long. It was a couple months ago, but that was fast.
Yeah.
Normally, you make changes on a piece of global cog or in this machine that is our world economy, and those changes take a long time to manifest, or little sparks take a long time to catch and turn into a fire.
Right.
That's less and less every day now. I mean, like with the speed of technology and everything else, things happen so quickly now.
I mean, case in point, I mean, I did outsource management for a long time, and that's basically my real estate company that I was working for. I was doing all their real estate analytics, and my entire team was in India. So I mean, I got much more personally aware of the global economy because I had to travel back and forth to India and understand and work with these guys and get that information going back and forth. What it basically makes me fully aware of is everything's instantaneous and it goes all the way around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, whatever happens over there can affect us over here almost overnight. That changes the whole, dynamics of a world economy and the economics. I'm telling you, it's going to happen so quick. It's just going to blindside us completely. When people start switching over to this other bank, this other reserve currency, our dollar going to just literally fall through the floor. And because it takes so long for other things to get here, we won't necessarily feel it immediately because we'll have already purchased, all of these supplies and whatever from our imports.
Almost like the 2008, where it really started in 2006, but the general public didn't realize
Bingo.
It was happening until 2008. And by
Bingo.
then it was just...
Right. That one took 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
This next fall, a year tops.
Wow, that fast.
We've moved to such a just-in-time delivery.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
And because of that, and all preppers know that from the whole just-in-time grocery store thing, right?
Right.
Well, look at that. Expand your frame of view on that and look at that from a global standpoint. Well, what happens if your dollar today is worth $1, but tomorrow it's only worth 2 cents? Well, the minute that everything you bought for $1 runs out and you have to turn around and go out and buy it again, now that same item is $10 versus $1.
Yeah. Or you've got all the goods already on a ship when that happens. Mm-hmm. You've got supplies coming in, and then it's that next boat that you've got to buy the goods of.
Bingo.
So we're talking, that's usually about I'm trying to remember from my days of dealing with that stuff, is about a 2-month delay there.
Correct.
Yeah. So
we're talking, instead of a couple of years, we're only talking about 6 months.
Wow. That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So what do you think would save us? I mean, obviously throw all the bums out, but I mean, other than that, I mean, this train is on its tracks. What do you think not that you have a giant crystal ball, but just spitballing here, how do you think we're going to react to that economically and politically, as far as, because we all agree that people running this country are fucking morons. But at some point they have to realize the jig is up.
I'm afraid that we're going to go into the isolationism.
You think so?
Yeah.
Which is just as bad.
Oh God, it's going to be worse. The politics wise, they're going to try to sell us on that. And what it's going to do is it's going to take us out of the global game. And because no one else is throwing money back into us, we're basically going to starve ourselves from within. That's going to take a long, long, hairy road to get back out. Because we are actually kind of isolated, at least geographically.
Yeah.
We only really have Mexico and Canada to kind of back us up.
Yeah.
Well, Canada's already seen where their dollar has been worth more than the American dollar.
Yeah, and they've been making a slow move away from socialism.
Correct.
So that's terrifying. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
I mean, for our listeners and for us, that's something that I have a keen eye for,
mm-hmm.
is to look for those indicators that that kind of indicate trouble's coming.
Yeah.
And to try to get in front of it. Gives you that much more of a kind of emphasis of, hey, I need to get prepared for this. But I mean, this is kind of a big deal effect type of, you might want to be able to completely cut out all your debt as fast as possible, which I know is very hard. Get a secure area where you can actually produce your own food and securitize that, whatever that might be. You have to kind of look back towards the Great Depression and what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to look at that on a good set of glasses and be like, okay, modernize that to the 21st century. What do we need to be doing? Because I think that's the kind of situation we're going to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, during the Great Depression, not everyone was completely and utterly broke. There was still money around, stuff like that. But the vast majority of people were really, really hurting.
Yeah. Both sides of my family, fortunately, did pretty well. One side was essentially being fed by a very successful engineer. And then the other side of the family had more international interests at that time. Plus, there was a family farm involved that actually took in other families, and that's how they worked it through it. At least there was parts of my family, and that goes back to being able to grow your own. And I know with that, and it was a small farm too. It wasn't like a very big thing, and it supported 3 families
easily.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
we've demonstrated, a couple of times we could support 4 adults on a piece of slab concrete. That was actually very viable. So you get 5 acres and have intensive farming on that.
Hell, even a quarter of an acre and do intensive farming. I mean, there's several instances of family. I mean, those people are really, and they're very studied. But I mean, that was one of the things we always tried to get across with the urban farm of, it's like any other thing. Farming ain't sexy, but yeah, you got to eat every day.
Right. And it's possible. So don't freak out and think you have to go buy, 100 acres out in the middle of, East Texas or something.
Yeah.
You can do it here.
Well, and we're also not talking about this happening tomorrow.
Right.
Anyway.
True. I mean, I'm just starting to see indicators.
Right.
So we've got lead time, and that's the whole premise of this show, is to make everyone be aware of what's going on a global aspect. Because if something happens globally, it will eventually affect us here, or at least be aware of those items that could affect us here and try to get ahead of that curve. So if it does happen, you're prepared and able to move. You don't want to be completely vested in something that's not liquid that you can't just pick up and move over into something else. You want to be able to be on your feet, to be able to move and lessen the damage of the impact.
Be agile.
Yes, be agile. That's the whole premise of being a prepper, is the ability to be agile if you need to be, to get out of danger.
And with that, we wrap up episode 128. Thank you for joining us today. And if you get 75 cents of value and or entertainment out of In the Rabbit Hole, we sure would appreciate your support by visiting intherabbithole.com/shop to get past seasons of In the Rabbit Hole. Help us keep the lights on and keep doing what we do for you. And don't forget to let us know your thoughts. What does an In the Rabbit Hole membership look like to you? Let's do this as a community. Post it in the comments section of today's show on intherabbithole.com. From the Lone Star State, till next time, stay safe and sound.